What is up, guys? Hungover Kackis here. Thank you so much for stopping by, and whew, I can do this. Today, Luke Smith released part 2 of his director's cut articles, and this is just a massive wall of text explaining really key elements in Destiny 2 and the changes they're planning on making leading up to and including the launch of the Shadowkeep Expansion. This is coming off the heels of the big Destiny 2 live stream that revealed exactly how Armor 2.0 would work. If you haven't seen that, check out my recap video, it's linked up above. However, during that live stream, and this was not officially talked about at all, but they just happened to scroll over the power level and that we saw that big changes are coming. What we actually did see was that there's going to be a bonus power level that is actually gained through experience that's going to help you level up within the game. This is something totally new coming with Shadowkeep. And in today's director's cut, Luke Smith went really hard into that, talking about all of the power level changes, kind of the new max power levels that we're going to be seeing as changes to stuff like Prime Engrams and other sources of powerfuls. So much stuff, very important stuff if you're planning on leveling aggressively in Shadowkeep, especially if you're wanting to do those Pinnacle activities like a raid off the start, and so let's dive into it. Alright, so the first part of the article is really just recapping Armor 2.0. I'm not going to go too much into that because, again, I have a whole video on that, but some interesting stuff that he did say that's somewhat new is actually explaining the random elements of armor drops in this new system. So when you get a piece of Armor 2.0, here's what it can randomly come with. Firstly, the elemental affinity rolls between solar, arc, and void. So any piece of armor can be one of those three elements, and that's important because certain mods have an elemental affinity. For example, shotgun loader might be actually arc, so you have to have a piece of arc armor to put that on. Also, an armor's starting energy value can roll randomly as well. You're still going to have to upgrade it to the max of 10, but this actually is the first time we're hearing that a piece of Armor 2.0 might come with 5 energy, maybe it'll come with 6, maybe it'll even come with 7 for the harder activities, and that's just going to require you to level that up less than you otherwise would. And lastly, of course, the stat rolls are random as well for intellect, discipline, strength, mobility, resilience, and recovery. So not only are you going to be looking for armor drops that have high stat values, but stat values that you value. For example, he does say that you can potentially have 100, which is the max amount of intellect just from random stat rolls on armor without putting on a single intellect mod, which increases your intellect by plus 10. So that's actually really interesting that you can really specialize just based on random drops. We also see this image accompany that information, and if you look to the left, you can see some of the new Shadowkeep weapons. In fact, the Lullaby hand cannon that is in the trailer, I believe that is what we're seeing here, and you can see it in the hand of the previewed Guardian in the center of this image too. Additionally, Smith addresses the concern that many players have, which is that they don't want to feel like all their armor is becoming useless as soon as Shadowkeep comes out, and they basically have to throw it all away and get new Armor 2.0. In fact, Smith says that you're likely going to be using your old armor in the Shadowkeep raid. That's what he says, that it's going to be a little bit difficult to get all the new Armor 2.0 mods and get great rolls by the time the raid comes around. So your old piece of armor that's already masterworked and has enhanced perks and a good mod, that's probably going to be better than switching to Armor 2.0 right away, having to masterwork it all the way to 10 energy, get the mods for it, etc. So again, he says that he expects to see that old armor being used for the world's first raid race. And I think that's actually a pretty interesting statement. And then players will later on eventually make the switch to all Armor 2.0 once they have the necessary mods and resources. Alright, let's talk about leveling. Now, one of the biggest changes coming in Shadowkeep is that the sources for powerful gear is being cut down and streamlined. Right now, there are so many different ways to get a powerful piece of gear, but when Shadowkeep launches, Smith says, quote, "Our target is to get the number of powerful sources closer to Forsaken launch levels." So basically, imagine the game without any of the powerfuls you get from all the annual pass content. So that's the Forges, Gambit Prime, and Reckoning, and Menagerie, like all of that stuff. Now, likely, a lot of those activities will still award powerfuls, but maybe not as numerously, or they'll be combined into overarching categories, etc. But yeah, expect some big changes there. Additionally, and this is super important, when Forsaken came out, the leveling system was unbelievably complicated, pretty much unnecessarily in my opinion. For example, once you reached certain thresholds in your power level, sources would award significantly lower power rewards. For example, like for your first time getting a powerful when you were, I think, just 500, for a strike, for example, it'd be a +5. Then, when you were 520, it would magically go down to +1. And so you constantly had this struggle figuring out what activities were actually viable and which ones had turned to trash. But with Shadowkeep, they say that instead, the system will advertise a consistent expected powerful reward regardless of your power level relative to it. Thank the heavens! So that means no more weird +1s. That means not having to save your Dreaming City Petra stuff for the exact right moment so you could get those +7 bonuses when you needed them most, or else you were totally screwed. And if you did get gauntlets twice from Petra, you ruined that character's leveling progression completely. That is becoming a lot more player friendly with Shadowkeep. All powerfuls will have, +5 as an example all the time, so you know exactly what you're getting. Moving on from there, we have some big changes to Prime Engrams. So when Shadowkeep launches, you will not get any Prime Engrams. Instead, you'll accumulate charges for them as you make your way from 750 to 900. And once you are 900 light, Prime Engrams will begin dropping. So, wow, we just got confirmation that the power level will be increasing to at least 900, and we'll see it actually goes even further than that. But also, Smith says we've increased the number of Prime Engrams you can earn in a given week and rebalance the value of each one to account for the increase in volume. So expect them to be less rewarding than they are right now in terms of a power level jump, but drop more often. Next up, we have a big change to world drops. These are just random legendaries you get when you're doing anything in Destiny 2. But when Shadowkeep launches, they will now have a chance to drop at your current power level. So, Smith gives an example. A player has an overall power level of 912, but their gloves are their lowest slot at 906. You might get a legendary engram world drop, and that world drop might give you gloves that are 912, your current level, which will give you an increase of 6 power to that slot. That is phenomenal news. It means that just playing the game is actually still going to be potentially rewarding, because your average power level, you're always going to have some pieces of gear below that. So that is going to ease the RNG. It's going to make it much more likely that you will not have that super low slot that's really dragging you back for that long. Okay, next up, we have another big change. Firstly, everyone watching, stop and tell your friends to just stop infusing stuff. Do not infuse a single piece of armor or a weapon until Shadowkeep drops. Why? When it does, every single piece of gear that you have, armor, weapons, etc., will raise instantly to 750. This is because of the Destiny 2 new light players. They're going to start everything off at 750, and then you'll climb from there. Now, it's somewhat annoying that the new players are starting off at the same footing as you that have been grinding for that long, but it's just so that they don't have to grind for hours and hours and hours before they can play with their friends. They can hop into the content right away. So overall, it's probably a better thing for the game, even if some players may be a little salty about it. But that is important. Don't spend your resources now. As soon as Shadowkeep launches, it'll be max level. After that, Smith talks more about what we saw during that live stream and that bonus power value. So essentially, this is actually coming from your seasonal artifact. And like we saw in the screenshot, you level it up just through experience. This is meant to be a path for players who don't do those Pinnacle activities, who don't play, raids, Iron Banner, and dungeons, etc. So you can still have a path to increasing your power without doing those activities. And he says that power bonus, it's not applied to gear, nor does it increase the power of future drops, but instead it's applied to all of your characters. So on top of all of these power changes we've been talking about and getting gear, just playing the game and increasing the level of your seasonal artifact and all that stuff through experience will give you more power for all of your characters. And the last thing Smith talked about was the final step in your power level climb. So he says Shadowkeep will also introduce Pinnacle powerful sources. These are different than your normal powerful sources. Why? Well, these sources are the only way to earn gear jobs above power 950 in Season 8. So there you go, confirmation that the new power level will be above 950, and we can really infer from this that the new power level is almost guaranteed to be an even 1000. Why? Well, Bungie always goes in 50s, and if there's only a few activities that are going to reward gear that's above 950, you can't expect another 200 power levels or anything like that. So we can say with pretty darn good certainty that the brand new max power is 1000. One more slightly interesting thing is that as you raise your power via Pinnacle activities, other powerful reward sites will continue to drop powerful side grades. So if you are 960, potentially you can get up to now 960 stuff from the other non-Pinnacle powerful sources, just so you can slowly bring yourself up. But to advance beyond that, you are going to need to do specifically those Pinnacle things, or get your bonus power up from your seasonal artifact. So that is it for the leveling changes within Shadowkeep, and wow, there are a lot of them. I'm really interested to try this out. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, learned something new. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you guys want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at @RickKackis. That's linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.